أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطاهرين. Verse number 45 of Surah Ar-Rum ليجزي الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات من فضله إنه لا يحب الكافرين, that he may reward those who have faith and do righteous deeds out of his mercy and grace. Indeed, he does not like the faithless. This layajziya, this lam at the beginning of the sentence, in essence, connects this verse to the previous verses. That he may. So it's called lamul ghaya, is for purpose. And it is connected to yasadda'un. For what purpose they are going to be separated? Remember we had in the previous verses, يَوْمَئِذٍ يَصَّدَّعُونَ, on that day they will be separated. Now, why I would separate them? لِيَجْزِيَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, that he may reward those who have faith and do righteous deeds out of his grace. لِيَجْزِيَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. What is jaza? Jaza is requital which suffices as a recompense. This is the meaning of jaza in Arabic. A requital which corresponds to the action and suffices as recompense. If good, then good, and if bad and evil, then evil. So jaza is used for reward and for punishment as well, the same thing. لِيَجْزِيَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. Now we have one other qualifier here. مِنْ فَضْلِهِ, so that he does it out of his grace. Why out of his grace? Because everything everything belonging to us, everything we own, is given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course, there may be a contradiction here, because Allah gives the reward as a recompense. The contradiction between jaza and min fadlih. This is a very delicate issue. The contradiction between jaza and min fadlih. He requires them because that is the compensation for their action, but he says min fadlihi, out of his grace. So is this grace, or is this what they deserve? Istihqaq. That's the main point in the verse. لِيَجْزِيَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. How does yajzi goes with min fadlih? Now, different commentators have offered different explanations, but one of the best one is what is mentioned in Majma'ul Bayan. He says, بِسَبَبِ فَضْلِهِ, out of his grace, because he created them, guided them, empowered them, and removed his illness and any barrier to the extent that they deserve the reward. And this deserving the reward is a fadl from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, min fadl. Some other commentators have said that this is going to be more than what they deserve in terms of compensation, in terms of jazab. لِيَجْزِيَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ means he gives them more than what they deserve. And of course, he does that. That is not on the question. What is important here is that even the jaza and what extra he gives is all from his fadl and grace. The abd does not deserve anything. If it was not for the grace of Allah, if it was not for the blessings, bounties, favors that he has given them. And that's why Allah Ta'ala says that it is not contradictory to consider what he gives them as a reward, which contains the meaning of recompense, while also counting it as being from his grace, which contains the meaning of non-entitlement. Grace contains the meaning of non-entitlement. Jaza involves entitlement, and the contradiction is not there. It's resolved by this explanation. Now, at the end of the verse, he says, إِنَّهُ لَا يُحِبُّ الْكَافِرِينَ. This is actually a very beautiful ending, which implies both giving and why he is not giving. Why إِنَّهُ لَا يُحِبُّ الْكَافِرِينَ means that his grace comes out of his hope, his love. And therefore the mu'minun are included in his love, while kafirun are not included in his love. The origin of that fadl is his love for them. For when they love their Lord and they dedicate themselves entirely to him, they unblock any hurdle. They unblock anything which deprives them of the downpour of the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when he says, إِنَّهُ لَا يُحِبُّ الْكَافِرِينَ, he does not love the kafirin, means that kafirin block themselves from the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and all that grace comes out of love. This is a very important concept. He created and he nourished, he resurrects, he rewards, he gives extra because he loves. And this is one of the most explicit verses of the Quran about the love of Allah for the servants. إِنَّهُ لَا يُحِبُّ الْكَافِرِينَ means his hope is the origin of all these. His love is the origin of all these graces, all these bounties and favors. And when he does not love someone, they do not come automatically. They are blocked. So from this it becomes clear that his statement, إِنَّهُ لَا يُحِبُّ الْكَافِرِينَ, he does not love the disbelievers, serves as a justification for both sides. For those who are given and for those who are deprived. And the giving is because the giving is out of love. This whole verse was an interjection here to somehow give moral support to the believers. And then the following verse continues with the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Verse number 46. وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ يُرْسِلَ الرِّيَاحَ مُبَشِّرَاتٍ وَلِيُذِيقَكُمْ مِنْ رَحْمَتِهِ وَلِتَجْرِيَ الْفُلْكُ بِأَمْرِهِ وَلِتَبْتَغُوا مِنْ فَضْلِهِ وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. And of his signs is that he sends the winds as bearers of good news, and to let you taste of his mercy. Let you taste of his mercy. Remember this, because we have something to say about this. Let you taste of his mercy. And that the ships may sail by his command, and that you may seek of his grace, and so that you may give thanks. وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ, what are ayat of Allah? Ayat of Allah are his actions, isn't it? Whatever he does, creation, wonders in the creation are all his ayat. And these ayat are his actions. Creation is his action. The wonders that he has created are his actions. So when we look at things in this world, we have to know that someone has performed something for these things to happen. There was an action behind it. So ayat of Allah, we in this world we only see his actions, and in the next world as well, not his essence. His essence is, of course, unreachable. However, his actions are his signs. Women ayati. Okay, what are from his ayat? And yursil al-riyah, he sends the winds. Yursil al-riyah, he sends the winds. And what ayah is this? Because Allah mentioned this as an action which deserves contemplation. And one of his actions that deserve contemplation. What is it, Yursil al-riyah? First of all, let me read for you a beautiful hadith from Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam. He says that لو كفت الريح ثلاثة أيام لفسد كل شيء على وجه الأرض. If the wind were to stop for 3 days, everything on the face of the earth would be corrupted and stink, because the wind is like a fan that blows and repels corruption from everything and makes it fresh. It's like the soul, that when it leaves the body stinks and changes. So blessed be Allah, the best of all creators. Here, both literally and in terms of meaning, there is a relationship between wind and the soul. Ruh and Rih. Ruh and Rih are actually almost from the same origin. Literally, I mean, in terms of the terms which are used for them. Ruh and Rih. And Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq takes this affinity between the words to make a sort of parallel between Ruh, which freshens the body, and Rih, which freshens the earth. And if one reflects, that is one of his signs, min ayatihi. أن يرسل الرياح مبشرات. Mubashirat means that they come with good news. أن يرسل الرياح مبشرات. Why mubashirat? They are mubashirat, they give the good news of rain, and they give the good news of everything which is going to be the result of rainfall on the earth. So they, in a sense, mubashirat mean harbingers as well. So the meaning of the wind being harbinger is that it brings us that good news about the blessings and favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes one feels, because rain is sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I will discuss this later on. The mechanism of this world is not so dry that we think that everything is working mechanically without Allah being present there. They work for themselves. Allah has created it, and it's working for itself because of the laws that Allah has established. No, they don't work unless Allah decides, allows, and performs it. Of course, he performs it through these laws that he has established in this world. So when rain comes, one may feel this is now a fresh bounty coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the meaning of mubashiratan. وَلَيُذِيقَكُمْ, well, one aspect of mubashirat. وَلِيُذِيقَكُمْ مِنْ رَحْمَتِهِ, and so that he may make you taste of his mercy. What is meant by tasting his mercy? And of course, receiving all types of blessings resulting from the rainfall, and as a consequence of the winds. Like what? Like pollinating trees, repelling diseases, purifying the atmosphere, and other things that are included in the general sentence of أَيُّرْسِلَ الرِّيَاحَ مُبَشِّرَاتٍ. They are mubashir, they are harbinger for every blessing that one may think on the earth. As I said, pollinating, repelling diseases, purifying the atmosphere, these are all mubashirat of riyah. Now, one very interesting thing is mentioned here by Fakhruddin Razi. He says that لِيُذِيقَكُم مِّن رَحْمَتِهِ. He makes you taste his mercy. Is considering that tasting is said about something small. When you taste the food, it means you don't eat it. You just put it on your tongue or just have it in your mouth that's tasty. So tasting is for something small. So he says that considering that tasting is said about something small, the sentence لِيُذِيقَكُم مِّن رَحْمَتِهِ refers to the fact that the entire world and the blessings of his world are nothing more than a small mercy of God. And the vast mercy is reserved for the day of resurrection, for the next world, in paradise. For resurrection and in paradise, the vast mercy. Small mercy, لَيُذِيقَكُم مِّن رَحْمَتِهِ. This is just what blessing you receive from the wind, from the rain, from the crops, cultivation, life in this world. It's just tasting his mercy. This is very beautiful. We are just tasting his mercy. We are not actually receiving it fully in this life, in the next life. وَلِتَجْرِيَ الْفُلْكُ بِأَمْرِهِ. So that the ships move on the sea by his command. لَتَجْرِيَ الْفُلْكُ بِأَمْرِهِ. Although the ships run by the wind, but Allah says by his command, that the ships may sail by his command. What is Allah's command? Does that mean that Allah commands the ships to move, or maybe commands the rain, the wind to blow, and as a consequence drive the ship forward? بأمره, commanding the wind. It may be that, but there is a deeper meaning here. You know, in other verses we have إنما أمرنا لشيء إذا أردناه أن نقول له كن فيكون. Our amr is that when we want something to happen, we say it would be, and it is. So the amr of Allah is his action. He doesn't need to do anything more than commanding. So لِتَجْرِيَ الْفُلْكُ بِأَمْرِهِ means because of his action, because of what he has created. لِتَجْرِيَ الْفُلْكُ بِأَمْرِهِ. So we can have two meanings here. One, commanding the winds to blow, or because of his creation of the wind. They are running. وَلِتَبْتَغُوا مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. So أَمْرِهِ means فَعْلِهِ. لِتَبْتَغُوا مِنْ فَضْلِهِ, and you seek from his grace, means you seek his provision, rest, things like that, by sailing on the sea and by cultivation of the crops because of the rain. وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. This is a spiritual purpose of all these things. Previously, it was said that winds blow, come as a harbinger, as a good news of rain, and also something that the ships can sail by it. These are all related to our material life, related to our existence, provision. However, there's another purpose for that, and that's a spiritual purpose. So the spiritual purpose is لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ, so that you give thanks, or maybe so that you give thanks. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. This لَعَلَّ is puts the sentence in a sort of hesitated situation, that you may give thanks. This may means that not necessarily you do that. Not necessarily you do that. But all these blessings of this world is to bring you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and giving thank would have that function for you. وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. This is غاية معنوية for the blessing of the wind, the rain, and every other thing. Now, what is shukr? Shukr is to use the blessing in a manner that indicates the beneficence of its bestower. You use you use what he has bestowed upon you in a manner that everyone says, wow, this is the blessing of Allah on him. Not using it in a way that people say this is the curse of Allah on him. And in addition to that, of course, it's a heartfelt sense of gratitude, heartfelt sense of relation with the bestower and benefactor, and also mentioning it by the tongue, verbally praising him. So all these correspond to shukr, which is the most important kind of worship of Allah. Verse number 47. وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا مِنْ قَبْلِكَ رُسُلًا إِلَىٰ قَوْمِهِمْ فَجَاءُوهُمْ بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ فَانْتَقَمْنَا مِنَ الَّذِينَ أَجْرَمُوا وَكَانَ حَقًّا عَلَيْنَا نَصْرُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Certainly we sent apostles, messengers to their people before you, and they brought them manifest proofs. Then we took vengeance upon those who were guilty, and it was a must for us to help the faithful. This is returning to the previous discussion that the verses had. In fact, this is an address to the Prophet, consoling him, telling him that do not be disappointed if the people do not believe. This has been a pattern in the past as well. And then the same pattern has been exacted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon those people. So, لَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا رُسُلًا يَا مُحَمَّدْ صلى الله عليه وسلم مِنْ قَبْلِكَ رُسُلًا إِلَىٰ قَوْمِهِ. لَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا مِنْ قَبْلِكَ رُسُلًا إِلَىٰ قَوْمِهِمْ. This is very important. The Rusul, the messengers, have always been from the people to whom they were sent. No one came from outside, another society, another community, another language to warn them. They should have been from themselves. And if we want to look in different verses of the Quran and then make parallels to our life now, we see that if, for example, someone went to Pharaoh or to Namrud, calling him to faith, to believe, if it was from another community, not having any relation, any root in that community, no one would have listened to him. But because إِلَىٰ قَوْمِهِمْ, they came from the people to the people, having roots in that community, having been known from the beginning of his life, speaking the same language, the same culture. That is why it is effective. وَلَوْ أَنزَلْنَاهُ عَلَى بَعْضِ الْأَعْجَمِينَ. Had we sent this Quran to a non-Arab, and he would have come to you, reciting it to you. فَقَرَأُهُ عَلَيْكُمْ. He recited in Arabic, actually. مَا كَانُوا بِهِ مُؤْمِنِينَ. You would not have believed in him. Or, for example, in another verse, we have أَمْ لَمْ يَعْرَفُوا رَسُولَهُمْ وَهُمْ لَهُ مُنْكَرُونَ. Do they not know their messenger? And that's why they do not believe, and they don't recognize him. Yes, they recognize him. If Ibrahim was able to give the admonishment, it was because the admonishment was to his father or a stepfather and to his own people. إِذْ قَالَ لَأَبِيهِ وَقَوْمِهِ. To his father and his people. So this is very important. And therefore, someone coming from another, in our life today, someone coming from another community, another culture, and wants to bring that culture to this society and speaks to them with that culture, it wouldn't work. It cannot bring that success. فَجَاءُوهُمْ بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ. We sent the messenger to them. They came with bayyinat. Bayyinat are clear signs, either clear arguments or clear signs in terms of miracles, overwhelming miracles, quite overwhelming arguments. This is what they had. جاءوهم بالبينات فانتقمنا من الذين أجرموا. And then we took vengeance from those who were guilty. فانتقمنا من الذين أجرموا. Here, of course, there is an elided sentence here. It means that they came to them, they rejected them, and then we took vengeance. We took vengeance from those who were guilty. Vengeance, what's vengeance? Vengeance doesn't mean that one is angry and taking vengeance. No, it's punishment inflicted or retribution exacted for wrong. For wrong. This is the meaning of vengeance. Not that Allah wants to take vengeance from people because they have not obeyed them. No. This is an infliction of punishment because of doing wrong. Not wrong to Allah, wrong to ourselves. Then وَكَانَ حَقًّا عَلَيْنَا نَصْرُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. It is certainly a must for us to help the faithful. Means we did not include the faithful in that punishment. We saved them. Like, for example, at the last moment, when the people of Lut were going to be punished, he took them out. Or Ibrahim, he saved him. Or Thamud, Saleh, and all others, Shu'aib, and the believers. It was a must for me to help them, to save them from that punishment. This is one meaning of كَانَ حَقًّا عَلَيْنَا نَصْرُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. There's one more delicate meaning for it. It means that why did we exacted punishment on them? Because we had to help and support the believers. It was our duty. Of course, when we say duty, Allah, no one has any right on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He doesn't have duties to discharge to anyone. But when he sets a duty for himself, a haq for himself, that's a different thing. There is no haq, but he says, okay, I put it on myself that I have to help the believers. Why I فَانْتَقَمْنَا مِنَ الَّذِينَ أَجْرَمُوا, took vengeance from the wrongdoers, from the guilty, because I had to support the believers. وَكَانَ حَقًّا عَلَيْنَا نَصْرُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, a right that Allah has set for himself, not anyone else. The following verse, Allahu alladhi yursilu riyah, comes back again to the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, beginning with riyah, and actually it is one of the most explicit verses that directly shows the hand of God in every affair of this world. The next verse, verse number 48, is one of the most explicit verses that shows direct hand of Allah in every affair of the world, of this world, that inshallah we'll discuss it in our next session. رَبَّنَا لَا تُزَغْ قُلُوبَنَا بَعْدَ إِذْ هَدَيْتَنَا وَهَبْ لَنَا مِن لَّدُنْكَ رَحْمَةً إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْوَهَّابُ وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين.